welcome. I'm Eileen Wiviat. I'm the minister here. Whether this is your spiritual home or you are newly discovering this community, we are so grateful that you are with us this morning. We are a welcoming and inclusive community seeking truth in love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us is worthy of love and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. We come together to remember our kinship with one another and to hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and with careful attention. If you're joining us online, there are many links of connection in the description below the YouTube live stream, including the order of service credits, ways to support our mission, and how to join our email newsletter list if you're just new to our community. If you're in the sanctuary, we encourage you to use the QR code, which is out on the table out before you enter the sanctuary for our digital order of service, or you can take a large print order of service. Both are out there along with our listening devices. And hymnals are available for everyone right outside the door. A few announcements. The Membership Engagement Task Force has been hard at work for the past 18 months and is now launching 2 new teams that will sit on the Membership Engagement Council. Last week we heard about the Congregation Connections team from Linda LaPlante, and today Carolyn Laughlin is here to tell us about the Leadership Development team. So coming up.
Thank you, Reverend Eileen, and good morning to everyone. For almost a year, the Leadership Development Work Group has been creating a roadmap to foster strong and positive lay leadership at UCE. Why focus on leadership development, you might ask? We all know that strong leaders help our congregations to thrive. Their attitudes and behaviors can empower and inspire members to accomplish goals, to feel a sense of belonging, and to enjoy the gratification of using and developing their gifts. Leadership matters. So we asked ourselves a few questions as we got our work started. First, what do we mean by strong, positive leadership? How is it defined? What goes into it? Number 2, if I'm leading a group or I'm thinking about assuming that role, how do I know what skills I already have and what skills or behaviors I might want to grow or build? And third and finally, we asked, if I want to learn more about certain aspects of leading, what resources can I avail myself of? What can I access? Our work group researched, reflected, and then tested our roadmap with our Board of Trustees and assorted members of UCE. We're excited about what we call the Leadership Development Guide. Now, we're building a small team to bring this Leadership Development Guide, which includes a new leadership model, a self-assessment tool, and a variety of learning resources to our entire congregation through communication and education. Melanie Kitchener and I will be at the back of the sanctuary after service to talk with any of you who might be interested in this work. And again, no hard push, hard sell, just we'll chat with you about it, find out your interests and see if it might be a good fit for you. And if you're online, we'd love to hear from you too. Thank you very much.
Just a few more announcements. This Thursday at 7 p.m., there will be a meeting on Zoom about the Safety Act, how it reduces harm and makes us safer. Please join the REAL team, the Racial Equity Action and Leadership team, to learn about this law, years in the making, which changes harmful pretrial practices and centers the needs and safety of survivors of gender-based violence and other serious crimes. The deadline for submitting donations for the Serendipity auction is only 1 week away, Sunday, October 30th. This is the church's largest fundraiser, and for it to be a success, we need at least 100 more donations. Now that sounds like impossible, right? But everybody can give something. Like, you all have gifts, you all have things on your heart that you're passionate about, or you could have, this is the thing, I don't know, is Gary Wisby here? No, okay, well, so this was always my inspiration, that Gary Wisby years ago offered a joke of the week, right? That was his offering to the Serendipity Auction. I thought, well, if Gary can do that, I can do something. And I made cookies for everybody if based on their desire. So you have something that you love to do or that you can offer this community, and the community gets to know you better, and you get to know our community better. So think about it. So we ask you to share your best self. Families might consider offering shoveling snow or doing a fall yard cleanup. Others could offer a ride to the airport or to prepare a meal to deliver. So the options are limited. We also need volunteers for the celebration party on November 12th. We are all needed to contribute to our church's connectedness to each other and our financial health. So let's do this together and have fun. Come see us at the back table after church, or go to our auction page on the UCE website. And whatever, even if you don't contribute something, come to the event. It is so much fun. Hope to see you there. Tonight, Howard Levy and Chris Siebold are performing right here at 7 p.m. It is not too late to get tickets. You can get them at the door. So hope to see you there. I'll be there tonight as well. And that's it. That's all our announcements. We finally made it. And now, let us settle into our shared time of reflection, of celebration and inspiration as we begin our worship service. Those joining us online are invited to gather your chalices as we join in beloved community. Welcome to worship.
Oh bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bamba 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 bamba, oh bamba bambalela, siso bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bambalela. Bamba, 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 oh, bamba, bamba. You must never give up, no, never give up, never give up, never give up, oh, never, 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 oh, never, never give up. In times of trouble, oh, never give up. When times are hard, never give up. Oh, never, 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 never. Oh, never, never give up. You must never give up. No, never give up. No, never give up. When you're all alone. Oh, never, 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 never. Oh, never, never give up. Oh bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bamba 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 bamba, oh bamba bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bambalela, oh bambalela, bamba, 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 oh bamba, bambalela.
Almost forgot what I was going to do. The Unitarian Church of Evanston resides on the traditional homelands of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations. In 1829, this land was recorded as being transferred from the local Potawatomi community, who had no choice but to sell their land to the U.S. government before being forcefully removed west of the Mississippi River. This land was then sold to white settlers. The Chicagoland area is now home to one of the largest and most diverse urban Native communities in the U.S. The acknowledgement of this land's history is one small effort toward building long-term solidarity with contemporary Indigenous communities. We name these realities with honor for all the ancestors and with respect for our descendants, with gratitude for the animals and plants sustained by this land, and with deep appreciation for the land we use as sacred space.
As Carolyn Laughlin and Linda LaPlante light our chalice, symbol of our living tradition, please join in saying the words on the screen. We light the chalice flame to encourage insight, to illuminate our shared journeys, to give us courage as we travel our paths. May the power of the chalice remind us of the blessing of companionship along the way. Please rise in body or spirit and join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is a great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Before we sing our opening hymn, let's turn to one another briefly to say good morning. Try to greet someone sitting near you, but who you don't know yet. And for those of you participating from home, please greet one another in the chat if you haven't done so already.
Please remain uplifted before you sit. We're going to sing hymn number 1000, Morning Has Come.
Thank
good morning. Sweet. What a beautiful day. My kind of weather. Anyway, today's Time for All Ages is The Buried Treasure, which is a Sufi fable. Once there was a farmer who worked hard and had a mostly happy life. He had 3 children whom he loved very much, but he worried about them because they seemed to never be happy with what they had. And they didn't share his appreciation for working the land, or working at all for that matter. Try as he might to help them learn a different way, he feared that they had grown up spoiled and expecting things to come way too easy. He worried about this until the end of his life, and then, near his final hour, inspiration came to him. He called his children around by his bedside and asked them to draw really close and listen very carefully. "I am soon to leave this world, my dear children," he said in a quiet, strained voice. "I want you to know that I have left a valuable resource for you. I have hidden it in my field. Dig carefully and well, and you shall find it. I ask only that you share it amongst yourselves, and then evenly, of course, and then give some of it away to those who are less fortunate than you." Well, the children tried to hide their excitement over the riches they were soon to find. They loved their father very much, and they were sad he was dying, but they were eager to get their hands on it. They begged him to tell them exactly where he had buried the treasure. But the father breathed his last breath and spoke no more. As soon as their father was buried, the 3 children took up their pitchforks and their shovels and began to turn the soil over. Dig. They dug and dug, turning the soil over carefully until they had turned over the whole field twice. They were disappointed. They found no treasure. But since the field was so well tilled, they decided, well, they might as well plant some grain as their father had done. They thought that would be a good way to honor and remember him. Soon little green shoots came up and the plants grew into a beautiful yellow crop of wheat and corn. They harvested the crops, saved some for themselves, sharing it equally, of course, and sold some and made a modest profit. And they even had enough to share a little with some neighbors who were hungry. But they still hadn't found the treasure their father had promised. And so after all that hard work of digging and planting and harvesting, they decided to dig again in the field just in case they needed to dig a little deeper. They turned the soil in the whole field over, but still found no treasure. However, the field was again prepared for sowing, so they sowed another crop, this time beans and squash. This year's crop was even better than the one before. Again, they kept some of the crop for themselves, shared some, and sold some. They had what they needed and actually felt quite accomplished for all that hard work. The exercise and fresh air helped them sleep well at night, too. Well, this went on for a number of years, searching for that treasure, planting seeds, harvesting, and sharing the crop. The grown-up children of the farmer grew accustomed to the cycles of the seasons and the rewards of daily labor. Their farm earned them enough to have a comfortable life, and they were happy. Finally, they realized that this was the treasure their father had left them. The end.
Each Sunday, we hold space for the joys and the sorrows that are gathered here amongst us, honoring the struggles and the triumphs, the brokenness and the wholeness that is woven into the human experience. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like shared with this community, you can write it in our Joys and Sorrows book on Sunday morning, kept at the back table. You can send me an email anytime during the week, or you can fill out our Google form found on the homepage of our website. These are the joys and sorrows that have been shared for today. From Janet Lipner, she writes, I finished chemo. Thank you to all who helped me get home from the many appointments that she had. We're so happy that you're feeling better, that you're home, and wishing you wellness, Janet. And from Claudia Dancing, she writes, my husband, Bruce Calick, is 91 years old this month. And, yes, that's an accomplishment. And our dear dog Sylvie is 13. If you multiply her chronological age by 7, you get the equivalent to humans of 91. She said both are slowing down, but they are in good spirits. Happy birthday, Bruce and Sylvie. Well, I don't know if it's Sylvie's birthday, but she's just 13. But anyway, it'll be your birthday at some point, Sylvie, so happy birthday. This is sacred space for the practice of beloved community. Together we expand our celebrations and we lessen the burden of our grief. If you'd like to come forward and light a candle in honor of a joy or a sorrow that is on your heart, but was perhaps too tender to share out loud, please come forward now. Let us say together, Adam. Thank you. Let us say together, for these joys we give our thanks, for these sorrows we give our love. I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, source of abiding and transforming love, move among us and through us so that we may be a comfort and an encouragement to one another. We express our gratitude for the abundance and beauty that life offers us every day, for this magnificent fall, for the color of the leaves, the cool, crisp air. And we ask for courage and fortitude to face the struggles and the pain that are also our companions throughout life. For those who are suffering around the world, far away and very near, for those without enough to eat or a place to sleep, for those without adequate health care, for those experiencing violence or oppression of any kind, for those in the midst of war. May our hearts never harden or turn away. For our Mother Earth and all beings who are a part of her, who depend upon her, may we never give in to despair, thinking there is nothing we can do. Help us to remember the power of simply being present, of offering our love, of sharing our resources, and strengthening our collective voices. May each of us and all of us have what we need. May we have courage to be in relationship, wisdom to forgive ourselves and others for our human failings and imperfections. May we choose over and over again to begin again in love. Amen. We invite our young people, kindergarten through 12th, to their faith formation time with their adult leaders as we sing hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. As we say in our covenant each Sunday, service is our law. UCE is called by our mission, values, and principles to contribute to our community, to form accountable partnerships, and to express gratitude through giving. Today's offering will be shared with UUPMI, UU Prison Ministry of Illinois, whose mission is equipping Unitarian Universalists in Illinois to transform institutions and support people harmed by the prison industrial complex. If you are joining us from home or in the building, you may text to give. You may mail in a check or give from our website. If you write a check, do please indicate in the memo line if the check is for the shared offering, for your pledge, for your capital campaign, or some other giving. And if you are in the sanctuary, the ushers will pass the collection bowls down the aisles. Ushers, please come forward. Please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy. Thank you, Gregory, and thank you for your generosity. Before our first reading, I wanted to express my gratitude to Annette and Greg for sharing their spiritual journeys with us this morning. One of our stated values is to support the spiritual growth and well-being of our congregation, to cultivate gratitude and joy, curiosity and wonder, and an openness to personal and relational transformation. One way that we live this value is by sharing our stories and receiving them with love, which is what we're doing today. So thank you again. Our first reading is Love After Love by Derek Walcott, a Nobel Prize winning St. Lucian poet who died in 2017. The time will come when with elation you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror, and each will smile at the other's welcome and say, "Sit here, eat." You will love again the stranger who was yourself. Give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored for another, who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit. Feast on your life.
your gifts. Good morning on this great fall day. I'm Greg Grabowski. My religious beliefs have developed along a path of searching and transition. I started life in my Roman Catholic family and had been taught all the beliefs, rules, and customs practiced by the followers of that religion and my family. As I grew into my teen years, the world of pop music and rock and roll was a very important part of my life, from the Beatles to Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. An important influence for me included the song My Sweet Lord by George Harrison. Through the Beatles, I learned of transcendental meditation and Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. I was drawn to the music, the colors, and the mystical aspects of Hinduism and India. Harrison and the other Beatles traveled to India to study transcendental meditation and create music. There was a falling out over sexual allegations against the Maharishi. John Lennon had said, "We believe in meditation, but not the Maharishi and his scene. We thought he was something other than he was." As young adults, Amy, now my wife, and I studied transcendental meditation and practiced regularly, 20 minutes, twice a day, as much as possible. At approximately this same time, I also became attracted to Krishna consciousness and Buddhism, though to a lesser extent, reading books and texts about those groups, and also attended a Ginza festival at the Midwest Buddhist Temple in Chicago. Seals and Crofts and their music also influenced me. I was initially drawn to their melodies and their lyrics. Their "We May Never Pass This Way Again" was a favorite of mine. This was the 70s, and their music provided comfort at times when I needed it. I remember hearing about the Baha'i faith through Seals and Crofts. We know of our neighbor, the Baha'i House of Worship just north of Wilmette. I looked further into the Baha'i faith and found very uplifting messages from Baha'ism that appealed to me. Establishing a universal faith for now, the oneness of humanity, equality of the races, abolishment of class distinctions, and a focus on social ethics. However, there is an important core belief regarding the faith's founding that I had trouble accepting. Looking back, it's interesting how I've stumbled across religion and faith through music, as valid a journey as any, I think. I hope I'm not coming across as impulsive in my faith search, but for me it's been a journey, seeking a faith that A, resonated with me, and B, provided an accepting community to practice in. While looking into many of the world's religions, I normally find numerous positive messages, and I also find there is often some core belief that I am just not comfortable with. Through my adult years, I basically remained unchurched. I want to mention that I did hold onto the tenet, do unto others as you would have them do unto you during that time. Amy and I met, dated, fell in love, and soon talked about getting married. That's the short version of it. It was the 70s, and we both talked about having a wedding that reflected who we both were. We wanted something more than a civil ceremony. We approached the Episcopal Church, Amy's father's religion, and the Roman Catholic Church, my parents' and Amy's mother's religion. After interviewing at those churches and honestly answering questions, we unfortunately were informed that we would be better off looking elsewhere to get married. We were initially offended by this, but we shortly realized that this was probably for the best. In a wedding planning book, we learned that leaders of ethical culture societies performed marriages. Leaders are what their clergy are called. We found an ethical culture society in Evanston, the Ethical Humanist Society of Chicago. Regarding our wedding, the interview with the Chicago Society leader, did not have a faith test. We assembled a wedding that best reflected Amy and me, and we were married in 1975. After a while, we decided to attend meetings of the Ethical Society. Ethical Culture is a humanist religious group centered on ethics rather than theology. The mission of Ethical Culture/humanism is to encourage respect for humanity and nature. They believe that all individuals have inherent worth and dignity. They strive for ethical growth, and that members have a responsibility to create a better world. Deed beyond creed was an important model. We found that the Ethical Society provided a nice balance that challenged our minds and nurtured our hearts, and after a while we joined. We held a naming ceremony there for our son, Eric. The Ethical Society was very low-key about being a religious or spiritual group, and this was acceptable to us. Unfortunately, in time, the warm, enriching feeling we originally felt as members faded. Our needs no longer met. We left the society. After a hiatus, we discovered Unitarian Universalism and visited some Chicago area churches. We felt very comfortable at the Second Unitarian Church of Chicago and started attending services there. I found Unitarian Universalism to be quite similar to Ethical Culture/humanism regarding beliefs and practices. What appealed to me most was respect for the inherent worth and dignity of all persons, one of UU's 7 principles. In time, we joined Second Unitarian. Through the minister there, I learned it was okay to question a belief in God, whether agnostic, non-theist, atheist, or a believer. All were welcome at Second Unitarian. Whether or not God existed was not a crucial issue for my personal faith. The way I lived my life in relationship with others was. Our temporal and spiritual needs were nurtured at Second Unitarian. We created a naming ceremony for our daughter Allison there. Changes occurred at Second Unitarian that were too challenging for us, and we decided to become unchurched once again. At home, Amy and I then created what we called home church for our family of 4. We designed our own Sunday services based on our collected thoughts, ideals, and experiences. We, our children too, picked themes for our services. We shared music, inspirational readings, and reflections together with the idea that we could carry these to guide us in the weeks ahead. As nice as it was, we found that we missed the communities that we had when we were members of Second Unitarian and the Ethical Society, so we decided to go church shopping once again. After revisiting many UU churches in and around Chicago, we started attending the Unitarian Church of Evanston. At first, only once in a while, and later, more frequently. Long story short, we joined in 2007, if I remember correctly, and here we remain. I am now going to share with you a few of my personal beliefs. I am a religious humanist and a Unitarian Universalist. The former is a key part of my belief system, and the latter is my equally important religious or faith community. I tend to be a straightforward person with simple tastes and needs, and my faith today is also uncomplicated. Though simple, my life has been filled with wonder. I've been awed standing in the middle of towering redwood trees and amazed at nature while hiking in the mountains, sailing on a lake in a small boat, as well as sailing on a large ship, amazed at pods of dolphins swimming alongside, walking quietly in a forest preserve, trying to identify birds by sight or song, admiring trees and trying to identify them by their leaves and bark. Our natural world is so very important for sustaining my well-being. I think that my thoughts and feelings about nature are the closest I've been to experiencing what I'll say is spirituality. Regarding these beliefs, I've come across the terms religious naturalism and humanistic religious naturalism, and I am currently studying them. In addition to nature, my faith also has a very strong bond to people, their inherent worth and dignity, and in particular, how I treat others. The people in my community and the people in the world are integral to my beliefs and practices. I've been blessed in so many ways. I have wonderful family and friends, a great church, and a fulfilling career. I look in my life for what I can offer others. Unitarian Universalism and the Evanston Church has been a good match for me. I'm inspired to do what I can in my community to help make the world a better place. My beliefs are strong, but at the same time fluid. I have compared my faith journey to experiencing school. graduating from grade/primary school to high school, from high school to university, and then also changing colleges within university. I look back and see that my faith has also progressed in kind. I think of it as an ongoing life process, reflective and challenging, growing and changing, all so important to my continuing faith journey. Thank you.
So they say it's but a game and they let it slip away. Love, like the autumn sun, should be dying, but it's only just begun. Like the twilight in the road up ahead, they don't see just where we're going. All the secrets in the universe whisper in our ears. All the years come and go, take us up, always up. We may never pass this way again. We may never pass this way again. We may never pass this way again.
The name of this reading is In the Middle by Barbara Crooker. In the middle of a life that's as complicated as everyone else's, struggling for balance, juggling time, the mantle clock that was my grandfather's has stopped at 9:20. We haven't had time to get it repaired. The brass pendulum is still. The chimes don't ring. One day I look out the window, green summer. The next, the leaves have already fallen, and a gray sky lowers the horizon. Our children almost grown, our parents gone. It happens so fast. Each day we must learn again how to love. Between mornings, quick coffee, and evenings, slow return. Steam from a pot of soup arises, mixing with the yeasty smell of baking bread. Our bodies twine, and the big black dog pushes his great head between his tail, a metronome, 3/4 time. We'll never get there. Time is always ahead of us, running down the beach, urging us on faster, faster, but sometimes we take off our watches, sometimes we lie in the hammock, caught between the mesh of rope and the net of stars, suspended, tangled up, in love, running out of time. Now this is me. I love gospel music. I grew up in Third Baptist Church in Toledo, Ohio. This now 150-year-old church was my home. My father found Third Baptist Church when he attended a party attended by the good-looking young minister Elliot J. Mason. Punch was served, and it was spiked with some liquor. But Reverend Mason politely turned it down. My father had been drinking steadily and heavily most of his life. His sister once told me, "Your daddy was a booger." And he couldn't understand why this good-looking young man wouldn't take a drink. You see, Baptists don't drink liquor when anyone's looking. My father never took another drink again, and as a reward for his abstinence, my 40-year-old mother got pregnant. I was their only child together. I was God's reward. I was God's property. No pressure here, right? My father was an usher when I was born, and the minister, Reverend E.J. Mason, was an Oberlin-educated Rhodes Scholar whom I called Uncle Elliot. You see, our congregation contained teachers and principals, lawyers and doctors, and one judge who was a Morehouse classmate of the now M.L. King Jr. This was an important church in the community, in the Black community. We had a few choirs, but Reverend Mason's sermons were heady yet heartful. And I looked them up on YouTube. They're on YouTube. He was really good. We had a few choirs, none of whom sang like Kirk Franklin and God's Property, but like the Edwin Hawkins singers. They sang old-time hymns and spirituals like the gospel singers that we grew up with. We had a moaning bench. You know what a moaning bench is? A moaning bench. That was the first row. That's why I can't sit in the first row. It was reserved for people who wanted to be baptized the first Sunday of every month in the early morning, when they were dunked in water and came up, and the congregation sang out a familiar refrain for each new member. You see, baptism was necessary for entry into heaven. I went to Sunday school at 9:15, followed by Sunday morning church service, which lasted until at least 1 o'clock. Then I went to Baptist Training Union on Sunday evening, where I was the Bible quiz champ, thank you. And that was followed by evening service at 7 o'clock. I spent part of every summer going to summer Bible school, and our July vacations were in Smith Grove, Kentucky, at the annual homecoming at Stony Point Baptist Church, my grandparents' church. My father went to weekly usher board meetings. Then later, when he became a deacon, he went to deacon board meetings. My mother was the superintendent of the adult Sunday school, but I was, and always will be, Deacon Wallace's little girl. You see, apparently church is in the blood. My 85-year-old brother, he's 85 now, who is not raised with me, he trains young men to be deacons at his Baptist church in Louisville. My late sister, who was also not raised with me, was an honored member of her Baptist church in Dayton, Ohio. And my father's late sister was married to a Baptist minister, a preacher. They all have or had relationships with their concept of God and church community. But when I got my driver's license, I was allowed to attend any church on any Sunday except the first Sunday, which is Communion Sunday. So I went to Calvary Baptist Church on their broadcast day with their band and spirited singing. I attended Black Lutheran and Episcopal churches and a friends meeting at the YWCA, where the mostly white group sat in silence with occasional mentions of Nixon and Vietnam. Nice group, good picnic and potlucks, but no music. I received a Bhagavad Gita at the Mahavishnu John McLaughlin concert. I was invited to Seder by my still good friend Peter Morace's parents, and realized that there was more to religion than the Christian Bible. There were other relationships to be formed between myself and some other. So in college, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, was big. So I was initiated and learned how to soothe my soul and meditate. Abba Lessing, my college advisor, had written a short book entitled Jewish Existentialism, a concept he later abandoned, but I was intrigued. So I read Buber and Fackenheim while also reading Sartre and Camus. I sang in the college's black gospel choir with its rhythm and soulful singing, but through it all, I was not convinced that God did exist as I had been previously taught. I had not formed a relationship with God. So I needed an intellectual and emotional home to park my soul. And perhaps Judaism was my new intellectual home. So I found a not-so-nice Jewish boy, and in order for us to get married by a rabbi, I converted to Judaism. We attended a couple of local synagogues and celebrated Seder with friends. That was cool for me. Food. When the marriage ended, I eventually found Kurt, who had his own religious issues. So in order for us to get married, we had to find someone who could meld our religious thoughts and feelings. And who better than a you? When we showed up one day at noon at UCE, neither Ann Tyndall nor Barbara Peskin were there, and they were probably out to lunch. But Frank Robertson was. And he agreed to officiate our marriage ceremony. Good thing, too, because my mother would never have accepted a female officiant. You see, at that time, in the 1990s, women were not routinely in Baptist pulpits. So, Reverend Frank made us legit. You see, in our family, a minister is not just the guy who shows up to preach. It is the lifelong advisor to the family whom you know and love, whose guidance you always seek. When my father died in 20-something, Uncle Elliot flew from his home in LA to Toledo and asked permission of the current minister to say a few words. He preached the entire 3-hour funeral. 500 people showed up. There was standing room outside. When my mother died 12 years later, Uncle Elliot had just recently died, but my mother, anticipating these things, requested the man who replaced Uncle Elliot, who is now retired, he was retired and living in another state. So I had to call him up and beg him to preach my mother's funeral. Because, you see, the current minister at Third Baptist Church hadn't been there long. He'd only been there for 7 or 8 years. He was a short timer in her eyes and in everybody's eyes. My family was minister-centric, and so am I. I didn't attend UCE for a while because of that, but now I'm back. Reverends Eileen and Susan helped me identify my soul. Gregory and Vicky lift up that soul. And Adam is the Cecil B. DeMille, and you produce the finished product. You make every Sunday worthwhile. Thank you.
For those of you that think that gospel music has gone too far, you think we've gotten too radical with our message. Well, I got news for you. You ain't heard nothing yet. And if you don't know, now you know. Glory, glory! Woo! You better put them hands together and act like you know up in here. GP! Put your hands together. Church up in here. Come on.
That song is worth listening to the whole thing, believe me. Look it up, Stomp. It's amazing. Thank you both. That was incredible. Thank you. So good to hear those stories and say yes when I ask you to share your spiritual journey. As we extinguish the chalice, please join in saying the words on the screen by the Reverend Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment until we are, we're together again. I'm sorry. I was so distracted by the fact that Linda LaPlante was able to blow out the chalice and not use the extinguisher. That's like amazing. I got distracted. I'm so sorry. I have to tell you this. When we got this chalice, we all tried to we practiced it and we lit it up in my office and we could not blow it out. We could not blow it out. I had to get that special thing. So another reason to be an admirer of Linda LaPlante. Please rise in body and or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, number 1020, Wo Ya Ya. Let us go with courage on our separate yet intertwined journeys, building the beloved community and healing our world. May it be so. May we make it so. Amen.